What if I told you there was a certain type of violent crime committed 7 times more often than murder in Texas?
And what if we told you that that particular crime would claim 7 new victims just before this broadcast ends?
Would you demand lawmakers and police get tougher on that crime?
Well, tonight, News 4 San Antonio troubleshooter Stacey is finding out what is stopping authorities from catching rapists.
On our streets and in our neighborhoods, we face a criminal epidemic. I'm not talking about murder, drugs, or drive-bys. It's rape, and the numbers are staggering. On average, in Bexar County alone, 4,600 people are raped every year. That's 13 new victims a day.
It's really a difficult and complex crime because it has such a stigma. You know, people associate rape with sex, and they have nothing to do with each other.
Miriam Elizondo is co-executive director at the Rape Crisis Center and says less than 20% of rapists are brought to justice.
You know, where in other crimes, whether it's homicide or an accident, you don't really blame the person who was killed. You don't really blame the person who was hit. But when you're raped, you blame the victim.
That's why this simple-looking white box with blue lettering is so important. It's a rape kit used to collect evidence.
What we're looking for specifically is DNA from the perpetrator to put them at the scene of the crime.
For the past 20 years, as a sexual assault nurse examiner, Shelley Botello has opened these kits.
And then what we do is, this is factory sealed. We break the seal when we start the examination.
And worked alongside law enforcement while caring for rape survivors.
These kits are very valuable because if we get them less than 96 hours after the assault, we have the possibility of having viable evidence on their body.
Once the exam is complete and the evidence sealed, the kits are sent off to a crime lab for processing. 5 years ago, folks like Elizondo noticed a problem.
What we learned is that we were significantly behind in processing those rape kits.
How far behind? At the San Antonio Police Department, there were almost 5,200 untested rape kits in 2009. Our city wasn't alone. Add in Austin, Dallas, Houston, and the rape kit backlog topped 16,000.
It's not a matter of someone dropping the ball or someone not doing their job. It's a matter of money because it costs money to process these kits.
A cost running as high as $1,500 a kit. Money hard to come by in tight police budgets. So 3 years ago, lawmakers in Austin took action, earmarking $11 million to start testing the growing backlog.
And so when the Senate bill was passed back in 2011, you know, it really made a significant difference.
With police now required to submit kits for testing within 30 days, the backlog is shrinking, but the problem still exists. Here's Senator John Cornyn.
One estimate was that there are as many as 400,000 untested rape kits.
That 400,000 is the national backlog. In Texas, the Department of Public Safety estimates more than 20,000 untested kits remain. In San Antonio, police tell News 4 the number is just under 1,500. So why is the backlog still so high? Well, the law doesn't require police to test the thousands of rape kits collected before September 1st, 2011. And now, money set aside to end the backlog is drying up.
You know, we really need to move forward, not move backwards. And so we need to find funding. We need to find a way to process these kits.
Fearing some of the backlog was the work of serial rapists, Congress stepped in earlier this year, allocating $125 million to battle the problem nationally.
This is a first big step forward. We're basically almost doubling the amount of money that will go into testing these rape kits.
But none of that cash is guaranteed locally. That worries Elizondo.
Those forensic exams are extremely invasive.
Because when the kits started piling up last time, rape survivors knew with the exams so personal.
They're taking pictures of body parts that never should be taking pictures of. They're prying and poking and pulling hair.
She says tens of thousands of victims refuse to go through the evidence collection process, making the criminal epidemic of rape a larger, more heartbreaking problem.
I have sat in this office with clients who have told me, I'm not going to report because it's not worth it. And to hear that, it was really disheartening.
With the patient labor.
Wow. All right. So if Stacey, lawmakers in Austin don't step up and allocate more money, is there anything they can do locally, local leaders, to whittle away this problem, the backlog?
Well, one thing we could do is follow the lead of Houston. Remember, the so-called statewide poll tax never collected any money and was eventually thrown out, but in 2012, Houston passed its own version of that, a city council ordinance, and it's still working.
And what are their numbers like?
Well, under that poll tax, anyone who went to a strip club would be charged $5 at the door for going in, and that money was used, set aside to start tracking down these kids and testing them. So in 2 years, they went from a backlog of over 4,000 to 0. So
Wow.
those ideas can work.
All right. Thanks, Stacey.